It's the final round of the buys, AFL Round 14 action kicking off later tonight, and some of these games this weekend hold big bearing on how the structure of the top 8 will sit at the end of the season. All this and more in this week's instalment of AFL 2018 season prediction, teams and tips.
There is Godzirra.
What's going on, Godzirra Nation? This is Godzirra back again with another AFL Teams and Tips video, looking ahead to Round 14 action, the final weekend of the buys. Probably the most dreaded part of the proper AFL season, because there's going to be a week where your team doesn't get to perform and you'll sit at home wondering what you're going to do with yourselves for the weekend. Your boy Godzirra is in that boat because Richmond's sitting out with the bye this week. Hopefully gives us a little bit of a rest heading into a big game next weekend against the Swans. But that's round 15. We're here for round 14. And I've done something a little bit different. I normally wait for the full teams to drop. But because we've got another Thursday night game, I don't want a repeat of what happened last week with not being able to get the teams and tips video out until the Friday. So you guys didn't get the chance to get your tips in for the first game. So unfortunately, because that's how the dice is dealt when it comes to the bye rounds, the only team selection I have available is for the West Coast Eagles versus Essendon game. However, what I will do in the comment section down below, when the full teams drop on Thursday, I will put a comment to show the ins and outs for each team. So stay tuned for that. But as I just said, we are kicking it off later tonight over at Optus Stadium. The West Coast Eagles hosting Essendon, and there are some big outs for the Eagles. We have Dom Sheed omitted, and I don't see why he got omitted. He's been doing well, and he might be one of those players, I think, at season's end who might look for another opportunity elsewhere. He seems to be finding himself out of the team a lot. Youngster Jared Brander, after his debut last week, has been omitted as well. But the big news out of the West: Josh J. Kennedy out injured, and he's set to miss up to a month of AFL action. That is both their guns in Josh Kennedy and Jack Darling sidelined out of that forward line. With those omissions, we have Will Schofield, Mark Hutchings and Fraser McInnes all coming in. Essendon go into this game unchanged. I'm still throwing my support behind the West Coast Eagles this week. But I think up forward, they're going to struggle big time. I think they're going to miss Jack Darling's influence on the game more than they're going to with Josh Kennedy. Purely because Jack Darling this year, if you haven't been living under a rock, you would have realised the amount of work he does up the ground is phenomenal. He does the similar things to kind of like a Jack Rewalt and a Jesse Hogan, but he does it 10 times better. Floats up the ground, gets that intercept ball, and moves the ball down to the forward line. They're definitely missing that out of him. They're now going to have to throw Fraser McInnes out of full forward, I think, and they're going to have to rely on Jake Waterman as well to give him a hand. Mark Hutchings comes in. I feel they'll throw him up forward as well. And the smalls like Cripps, Ryan and McCrath, they're going to have to work overtime up forward. But I'm still going to back the Eagles. I just think over at Optus Stadium it is too big of a task for Essendon. However, with that out, with Josh Kennedy, no Jack Darling, Eagles could fall flat on their face and Essendon could roll away with a big upset. It is very possible. I'm still backing the Eagles, and I hope losing Kennedy as well as still missing Jack Darling out of the lineup, and especially with Dom Sheed being dropped as well, a little bit of speed and finesse taken out of the team, we don't start seeing the Eagles dropping form. Fingers crossed, because I've got some very good West Coast supporting mates that I want to see the Eagles get the job done for. So let's pray to the AFL gods. West Coast get over the line against Essendon to kick off round 14 at Optus Stadium later tonight. We head on over to Adelaide Oval, Friday night action. Port Adelaide taking on Melbourne Demons. And this is a tough one. For me, this is a 50-50 game. But I think I'm going to go with Melbourne to beat Port Adelaide in Adelaide. Now, bear with me, because you're probably thinking, hang on a minute, Godzirra, you're going off the rails. I beg to differ. Melbourne have travelled very well this year. I only have to remind you of how they played in Alice Springs against Adelaide a few weeks ago. Port Adelaide, when they played Richmond at Adelaide Oval, Richmond and Port played very bad, both teams, very bad football. But Port Adelaide played 20 minutes of backward kicking and stab passes to maintain a lead. Melbourne will not allow that to happen. Paddy Ryder is still injured, carrying that injury. Westhoff is having to help him in the ruck. Max Gawn is going to have an absolute field day in the ruck. He's going to get first use to his midfielders. Jesse Hogan is going to have a big game. It's the first game that Jack Watts gets to line up against his old team as well, so I'm backing that they're going to be firing up, ready to give Jack a thing or two. I'm backing Melbourne. I reckon they are the dark horse heading into this year's final series. They've finally got a good team going around. Max Gawn hitting big form. Their youngsters are all getting involved, which is good to see. And I just think Melbourne's momentum at the moment, they're like a steam train. Once the steam train gets going, very hard to derail. And I think Port Adelaide is just another obstacle in the way of Melbourne steamrolling their position and solidifying it within the top 4. So definitely locking in Melbourne at Adelaide Oval for Friday night. University of Tasmania Stadium is where Hawthorn is hosting the Gold Coast Suns Saturday afternoon. Why are we even bringing this up? It's Hawthorn. It's Hawthorn all the way. Gold Coast a couple of weeks ago did not have one mark inside 50. Last week, for whatever reason, had a very big lead on St Kilda, up to 39 points I think it was at one stage, and coughed it up by a couple of points at the end of the game. I don't know how you can get 40 points up, or close enough to it anyway, and just hand the lead over. I mean, I know how you can do it. I'm a Richmond supporter. I've seen leads thrown plenty of times before. But Hawthorn are going to get it done quite comfortably here. 10 plus goals. I'm pretty sure Tom Mitchell's playing game 100. He's going to go off the chain, 3 votes. James Sicily, he's going to stand up and have a big game as well. It's just going to be a bloodbath. Hawthorn's going to get it done quite comfortably over the Gold Coast Suns. It's still hard to believe some teams are rubbing Hawthorn out from making the top 8. They are still a very good chance, and there are plenty of games on their run home that they should be able to snatch big wins and take a top 8 spot. I'm actually backing Hawthorn to finish in the top 8 from this point. Write it down. Godzirra called it round 14, but Hawthorn quite comfortably over in Tasmania against the Suns. Later on that afternoon, we head on over to the Gabba where the Brisbane Lions are hosting GWS Giants. And really, this game could go 50-50 as well. I mean, you're probably thinking Giants have the better team, they're going to smack them, but Brisbane have shown glimpses this year of some very good football. I have backed Brisbane a few times this year as well, and that's more times than I have backed them in the past. However, this weekend is not going to be one of those weekends. I'm backing the GWS Giants to get it done over Brisbane Lions. I just think the Giants are going to run out with a better team. However, as I just said, Brisbane can completely turn this game on its head and walk away with a win here. It's 50-50. I don't think really there is either side you could clearly 100% definitively say they're going to get the job done. However, Godzirra is throwing his support behind the GWS Giants Saturday afternoon at the Gabba. Saturday night rounds out that action with the Bulldogs hosting North Melbourne at Etihad Stadium. I know 2 very big outs for the Bulldogs going off of last week's game. We know that Jack McRae has done a hamstring and he's going to be out for 3 to 4 weeks. And Easton Wood did a hamstring as well. I'm not sure on the length of his injury, however, it looked marginally worse. So I'm actually going to probably say he might actually be on ice for the rest of the season. I could be wrong. But we're backing North Melbourne here, and we're backing North Melbourne by at least 10 goals. It's just, Jack McRae's been their main ball winner, their main contested ball winner. He's been the feeding bulldog that gets all the handballs out to his teammates. Easton Wood has been standing up in that back line, throwing his weight around. You take those 2 players out of that team, you're going to notice some very big holes. Nobody can fill the shoes of Jack McRae at that club. Absolutely nobody. And I thought Jack McRae was a sneaky dark horse for the Brownlow, but I think losing him and missing for the next 4 weeks is going to put a big cross through that run, which is unfortunate because he was having a stellar year. A lot of Supercoach players are up in arms about him doing that hamstring as well. I'm one of them. But as I said, North Melbourne quite comfortably. I'm backing them by at least 60 points. Ben Brown will kick 4+. And with Jared Wade out of the team, you watch them boom. I'm telling you right now, you watch them boom. Because I know Jared Wade, I believe, is out with another calf complaint, so he's out for a few weeks. You watch them go without Jared Wade. That's just proof that they don't need Jared Wade. Nobody needs Jared Wade. North Melbourne, Saturday night at the Etihad Stadium, very comfortably. Round 14 finishes on Sunday afternoon at the MCG, home of football. Collingwood hosting Carlton. Do we really need to talk about this? Do we need to roll a replay of Carlton playing Fremantle last week? Seriously, I understand they're in the middle of a rebuild, but they have to be more competitive. They really do. And a lot of talk this week has come about with the Blues, with Mark Murphy not playing and still holding the captaincy and not recommitting to the team with his contract. If he's going to do that, really, when he did his foot injury, he really should have given that captaincy over. I feel it's time to give the captaincy at Carlton to either Patrick Cripps or Sam Doherty. I would probably really give it to Sam Doherty over Cripps. That's a personal opinion, but I feel Doherty has a bigger impact on the game when he's playing. You watch when Doherty comes back next year, just how much that back half for Carlton lifts with him influencing the team. But Collingwood here are going to get it done so easy. They're going to get 10 plus goals here. They're going to win by 60, 70, 80 points. Everyone's going to get off the chain. Steel Side Bottom's going to have 30 plus. Trevor's going to have 30 plus. This is going to get very ugly. It's going to get very ugly. And with Brendan Bolton only going on a week-by-week contract, I think his time might be coming. He might actually be the first coach in 2018 to get sacked. It's sad because they're in a rebuild and he's done a lot to help that club, but enough's enough. You can only run with it for so long. And there's a lot of Carlton fans up in arms. And I know I've got a lot of Carlton supporting fans on the channel. So let me know in the comment section below, guys. How do you feel about your team currently running in the competition, if you are a Blues fan? Do you think the coach needs to go? Do you think there's players that need to get dropped? Let me know in the comments down below. Obviously the buys this week: Adelaide Crows, Fremantle, Geelong Cats, Richmond St Kilda and the Sydney Swans. Just to recap the picks for this week, we're going with West Coast Eagles, Melbourne, Hawthorn, GWS, North Melbourne and Collingwood. Some of these games absolutely huge. As I said, if Essendon beat the Eagles, next week Richmond have the opportunity to get a win and get a game ahead on top of the ladder. Melbourne win, they solidify that top 4 spot. If Port Adelaide win, they push that top 8 to lock in for the season. Hawthorn get a win, they push for a top 8 run. North Melbourne solidify a top 8 run with a win over the Bulldogs. Collingwood do the same if they knock off Carlton, or if really. When North and Collingwood do beat their respective opposition, they will lock in their spots in the top 8. It's a big week for locking in, and we're coming into the back half and there's not much opportunity to do so, so these teams need to run with it. But that's it for this installment of AFL Teams and Tips, guys. Get your comments going with your tips for this week. As I said at the end of the buy round, so next week's edition, we'll have a running total of how all the votes are going currently with the people in the running for the prize at the end of the season. Drop a like on the video to show your support, as you guys always do. Your support is truly appreciated. I cannot thank you guys enough. Get on board the Godzirra Nation if you haven't already and you're new to the channel by hitting that subscribe button. Right next door is a notification bell. Make sure you hit that so you get notified every single time something brand new comes to the channel. Social media links in the description down below. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Hit me up on all of those. But that's it from me, guys. I'm out of here. And as always, I will catch you guys next time.